Miss your face, Bailey.
I know, you too. I'm glad I get to see it so much for this. Oh my God. Hello. Hello, Bloom. Welcome. This is very weird. My name's Bailey. I'm the vice chair of the Barista Guild. And on behalf of the Barista Guild, welcome to Bloom. This is really exciting. Marcus.
Hello. Hi, Bailey. Hi, Bailey. Hi, everybody. I'm doing great. Welcome to our first in the U.S. virtual Bloom. My name is Marcus Bonney. I'm happy to be here to represent the U.S. chapter of the Specialty Coffee Association of America. U.S. chapter is made up of elected volunteer leadership that represents you in the U.S. coffee community and advocates for you and works with lots of wonderful groups like the Barista Guild of America and, of course, the SCA too. So welcome, everyone, to our very first U.S. version of Bloom.
Awesome. So Bloom USA was made possible by a couple of sponsors. So we want to extend a huge thank you to Pacific Barista Series, Liqueur 43, and Barista.
And of course, thank you to Liqueur 43 for sponsoring Bloom. Liqueur 43, for those of you that don't know, is a premium liqueur produced in Cartagena, Spain, from a secret Spanish family recipe of 43 natural ingredients, which includes Mediterranean citrus fruit and selected botanicals. Liqueur 43 and coffee share similar and complementary tasting notes, making for a strong combination in coffee cocktails. The Spanish liqueur brand has once again this year called on cocktails and coffee professionals around the world to showcase their expertise and creativity in the art of pairing Liqueur 43 and coffee. And on October 23rd, the winner of this Bartenders and Baristas Challenge Edition will be announced on the Liqueur 43 Global Facebook page. So please stay tuned.
Thanks, Marcus.
And we also want to make sure to thank our content committee. These folks volunteered their time, their energy, their commitment to making this a wonderful event. In just a short period of time, they really came together and were really instrumental in making sure that we could pull off a great virtual first Bloom session. Quickly, I'll run through those wonderful folks. Alexandra Littlejohn from the Littlejohn Produce Box Project. Angela Winke from Intelligentsia Coffee, the wonderful Bailey Arnold from Oatly USA, Hannah Kassinge from Counterculture Coffee, Joshua Edens from Onyx Coffee Lab, Kendra Slidzinski, Lim Butler from Black and White Coffee Roasters, Miguel Vicuna from Sweet Bloom Coffee Roasters, and of course, Kathy Hilberg from Stumptown.
Marcus, I think you forgot someone. Oh. Obviously, the lovely Marcus Bonney of Mount Koenig, USA.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And this year's Bloom series, they are free events, which was something that both the BG, the US chapter, and of course the committee that helped bring this together was really focused on making this an approachable and accessible event. And with that was a suggested donation to go towards GoFundMe to support baristas. GoFundMe is a wonderful charitable organization dedicated to support, uplift, and defend the hourly coffee professional, which many of you are that are joining us today. Every little bit absolutely helps. And if you're joining us today, if you are able, of course, please visit gofundme.org. Add Bloom in the notes and comments section. And if you're able, please make a contribution to a great cause.
So today there's going to be a Q&A section. So don't forget, if you have any questions, you can ask it in the Q&A section within Big Marker, within the platform. And we're going to try to get to as many questions today as we can. We also knew that today's time wasn't necessarily going to be enough to discuss all these topics as in depth as maybe, you know, we want to when the event's all over and you're like, man, where are people talking about this? So we're going to be hosting some post-Bloom discussions in the coffee break groups next week. So if you go to Linktree, which is linktr.ee/coffeebreak.group, you'll find information on those post-Bloom discussions there.
And of course, Bailey, what is an event without a happy hour, virtual or hopefully someday soon safely in person? A special part of this is also joining us on a coffee break Zoom, a coffee break group Zoom for a casual hangout with coffee friends. Again, at that same link that Bailey just referenced, linktr.ee/coffeebreak.group for information to join the Bloom room at 4:30 p.m. Pacific time, or as soon as Bloom ends today.
Friendly reminder that by attending this virtual event, you agree to the SCA Code of Conduct, which you agreed upon during your registration. So hopefully we're all good on that. And feel free to use the chat, the general chat for discussion amongst yourselves. And then again, the Q&A section is for the presenters. The questions will be held until the end of the session. But again, there is time for those questions at the end. And then if there's any questions that are left, those will hopefully move over to the post-Bloom discussion groups on coffee break next week.
And Bailey, I know that was a key discovery in when we were putting this Bloom session together with all the other event collaborators, is making sure that there was so much brought up, and especially in these virtual events, there's so much brought up in these side conversations that we wanted to provide an opportunity to take those comments, to take individual stories beyond what's being presented here and take those into some type of group conversation, because there's a lot of great story, a lot of great information, and a lot of great things to consider that's happening. And part of a key part of what this program is really making sure that we move the conversation forward in a really meaningful way, and that multiple perspectives are brought to that too. So please tune in for those next week. And of course, if you're having any technical difficulties, please try refreshing your session, refreshing your browser. This typically takes care of most issues. Of course, if those issues continue, please exit the webinar and rejoin. If you're redirected from presentations at any time, you can return to the main landing page and then, of course, re-enter. We do have a team of wonderful folks kind of monitoring the chat windows. Try to keep any technical issues out of that chat window as much as possible. Try refreshing and then exiting and then re-entering the session if possible. And of course, feel free to share your experience, share your thoughts using the hashtag BloomUSA throughout this event this week too.
Cool. I think that's all the housekeeping we've got for you. We're so excited to introduce our first panel, the COVID-19 panel. So if you lovely COVID-19 panelists would switch on your cameras, we're ready to go.
Awesome. Great. We're all tuning in. Wonderful. Wait for everybody to come on screen. We're waiting for Kate to come on screen real quick, but while we're waiting for her to pop up, I'll go ahead and start the introductions for this panel. I just want to go ahead and thank everybody again. Thank you for attending this year's virtual adaptation of Bloom. My name is Joshua Edens. I use they, she pronouns, and I'm currently the Bar and Engagements Director at Onyx Coffee Lab. I'm so thankful to be able to be the moderator here today and be able to bring light to the number of stories, insights, and perspectives that our distinguished speakers have to speak to today. COVID-19 created unprecedented change across the world and has had a tangible and costly effect on the specialty coffee industry. Through conversation, we hope to highlight the stories of folks in our industry that survived, pivoted, and look to the future of the industry. Today, we'll discuss topics surrounding business management, pivoting business models, creating a COVID plan for future outbreaks, and supporting staff morale. I've had the joy of getting to know these speakers over the past few weeks, so I'd like to go ahead and take this time to introduce our panelists for today. I'd like for each of you just to kind of go through and tell us who you are, where you're from, what pronouns you use, and kind of let us know like what was working in the industry. What did that look like for you at the start of the pandemic, and then what does that kind of look like today? Sonam, if you want to kick us off with that.
Yeah, of course. Hi, everybody. My name is Sonam. I use she, her pronouns, and I work at Mina's World in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, beautiful West Philadelphia. And I think that Mina's World was in a very unique position as we opened 18 days before we had to shut down for the pandemic. And so what followed was a very, very strange ride.
Great. Marilee?
Hi, I'm Marilee Danila. I'm originally from Southern California. I go by her and she, and we were also like Sonam, and we were about to open another cafe in LA County, and we opened it right when we had a little lockdown, so it was kind of a little bit of weird transition. We're a pretty customer service oriented company, and so it was very a lot of people in the space and a lot of conversations, long chats, and then that quickly changed. So a lot of our employees, of course, had to pivot and figure out how to be creative with those customer interactions.
Great. And Kate?
Hello, my name is Kate Blackman, and I'm from Kansas City, Missouri. I use she, her pronouns, and working in the industry before the pandemic, I was the manager of a very high volume cafe and bakery, and really active in volunteering with coffee champs and all kinds of other, whatever fun coffee thing came along, basically. Right now, things are very unsure for me personally. I've been unemployed since the beginning of the pandemic. So for about 5 months, I've been volunteering full-time throughout with Barista KC, which I'll talk more about. And I recently started a really awesome but really part-time job with Roast Ratings.
Great. We love it. They are a distinguished group of panelists, and they all have a very distinctive kind of background. So I'm really excited for you all to be here and for all of our attendees to kind of reap the benefits of a lot of your guys' knowledge and experiences for sure. Cool. So kind of moving into our first topic, we're going to talk about business management and kind of what pivoting to adapt to COVID-19 looked like. So pivoting, adapting our business models in the face of COVID-19 has put so many people through the ringer, and many have had to, a lot of those decisions have had a direct impact on the staff and community and our businesses and so on. So I guess kind of starting, Marilee, excuse me, when did you first know that a decision needed to be made, and how did you involve your staff in that decision?
So, as you know, Los Angeles is pretty big hotspot for COVID, and so early February it was already discussed in a lot of our core management team. How is this going to affect our company, our employees, everything? And slowly, it was just like a simple conversation to, in a few days, it's like, okay, now this is really happening. What are our next steps? And so just like little by little, we just made adjustments per week. And then we always kept our employees up to date with what we were planning to do. And so I don't know if most people use like, internal communications app. And so we use Slack. So it was just like a constant push of, hey, this is happening. This is what we're going to be doing next. And so one of the first things was just like switching all of our like items to go and disposables, not letting guests into our space. And those were like the first steps. And then from there, we have a core team, which as part of which, because I'm the research and development chef at our company. And so it was like, what can we do to support our community as well as our staff?
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. I distinctly remember what felt like a war room meeting whenever we kind of like realized that things had to change, that things are going to change, and all the kind of uncertainty that kind of came to the table during that discussion. And that's so hard. Sonam, what did this kind of look like? I know that you had mentioned that y'all were open for barely any time at all before you had to make what is a very mature and very experienced like business decision. So what did that kind of look like, and how did you involve your staff?
Yeah, so we opened officially on February 28th, which already was like a week or two into what we were approaching to call like a national crisis. My staff is very small. My coworkers there's just 8 or 9 of us. And myself and Kate, the owners of Mina's World, were always on the floor. So it was kind of just like a group discussion for us, while it was devastating on so many levels to close like 2 weeks after this beautiful dream that we'd been working towards for the last 4 years. To just be like, okay, it's time to close. It was hard. We started just like merrily, like gradually closing earlier, opening later. We transitioned into takeout only for a couple of days, but we live in West Philadelphia. We live in a community where we care so deeply about the people around us, and also just the well-being of our staff. Like that's the core of our store. So as like devastating as a decision it was also very clear, and there's kind of no mincing words. We were like, let's close.
Definitely. I totally resonate with what feels like a lot of that decision, where it's like, this is such a hard decision to make, but it's very clear that like we have to do this.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
We've used the term pivoting a number of times, and this concept is like so different for so many people because everyone's in such a very niche aspect of the industry, and it's just so different for so many. And Kate, I know your experience is like definitely pivoted from being the manager of a very high volume cafe to basically having like all the time in the world on your hands. So, and I personally feel, kind of knowing your story, that you really made, lemons in the lemonade with the situation. But what did pivoting kind of look like for you in this climate?
Okay, so there, blah, 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 blah. Wait, get those nerves out. Okay, well, Kansas City had their shutdown announced for March 16th. We were to be the host of like the Big 12 basketball tournament, and that kind of got canceled. It was very strange. And then they made the call the day before St. Patrick's Day so that there weren't all the gatherings for that. So really quickly, my friends and I were realizing that all of the cafes were going to close or drastically reduce their hours. And we knew really soon that all our friends aren't going to have jobs, and they're not going to have any source of income. Nothing was like clear with unemployment or what was going to happen there. So my friends, Jerry Ponzer and Ben White, had started an online group called Barista KC that did spotlights and stuff, and coordinated events and education. And they invited me to join, and we launched a virtual tip jar that week. And it was basically like if you were a barista in the state of Missouri or Kansas and you lost hours or your job because of COVID, that you could be in the pool. Whatever money we were able to raise, we would just split equally among every person in the pool. So we got that launched right away, and that's been a really cool pivot to keep like feeling like part of a community, and doing something. It's like working toward a goal of keeping this group, because the coffee
Right.
culture in Kansas City is like really strong. It's really special. People are really supportive there. Cafes support each other, baristas support each other, and so for us, the pivot just looked like finding a way to keep helping.
Yeah. I mean, definitely having been to Kansas City for so many different events, it's like very palpable, the sense of community that it kind of lives there with that coffee community. So that doesn't surprise me at all. We kind of touched a little bit, or you had touched a little bit on like unemployment and some resources and stuff like that. And many are they like able to take advantage of some of these resources, and many were not. Kind of, Sonam, what resources were kind of made available to you and your business, and was this helpful?
Well, funny story, because we had just opened, we'd never actually had a tax season or tax return. So one
Yeah.
of those things we weren't eligible for anything, but except for this one wonderful grant of $2,500, which I'm eternally grateful for, from the Enterprise Center in West Philly, who, despite knowing that we have no tax forms to speak of or any annual earnings to show besides our 16-day run, like they still gave us a grant, and that was really, really special. We had applied to a bunch of different grants. We also received a grant much later on, I think, from our bank that we took a loan out from. Or not a grant, it was like for payroll. But actually, the thing that helped us the most was mutual aid. It just tore me up to think that like this entire group of people had either left their jobs or chosen to work here instead of whatever else they were doing. And then in 2 weeks, like all of what I could give them was completely gone. And it just felt so cruel. And I started an online tip jar for my staff and fundraised mercilessly. And my staff was paid every 2 weeks for the entirety of the pandemic. And that looks like fundraising over $20,000. Besides that, we also used that money to start a lot of mutual aid initiatives and stuff. But like, I promised my people that they were going to get paid, and like pandemic or not, broke or not, they're getting paid. And so that was like our main focus for the last 4 months.
Yeah, that's so incredible. Yeah, it's so crazy. I mean, even kind of thinking of some of friends I had in like established businesses and people that were maybe able to get some of those resources, there was just so much like what felt like lack of clarity, even surrounding like how do you even apply for this? Like, is this even a thing? Like, who can get these, and like how do you apply? And also like you're in the field of everyone else that's also trying to apply for these things, so it's so hard. I can't even imagine. Marilee, what was your experience with all of this?
So I think we're at a fairly decent sized company right now. We have like a lot of employees. I think right when COVID started, we had our 8th cafe at the moment. And then we did have to close 2 of them because they were tied to like public event spaces. And then another one we had to close in general because of same thing with rent. And so we were lucky that we did get part of the funding for payroll. So that covered a lot of those expenses. And then a lot of our management did take a lot of pay cuts. And we also just like pulled all of our staff to make sure that they were either working because they wanted to, they got on reduced hours, or if they needed an extended time off, we allowed it and then welcomed them back. And so we also were part of the work sharing program. That was if you were working limited hours, you still could get some unemployment benefits. So So like anything that we could apply for, we applied for. And then, so we did get funding from that. So luckily we didn't have to let anyone go like on from our end, unless it was your choice. Again, we welcome people back, and we just tried to make available as many resources as we could in terms of finances. But we also, I think because we're a fairly large company, we have like a commissary location for our kitchen. And then we had a pantry offering for our staff that had goods that you can purchase, at a low cost. So if you couldn't get toilet paper, if you couldn't get like hand wipes and gloves and, like rice, beans and stuff like that. So we have that open to our staff as well.
Yeah. I've seen so many people kind of step into that role of providing those kinds of like necessary resources for people. Because I mean, even when you have a job in that climate, it's like there's so many things that are also just so hard to navigate, and it's nice to know that people you're working with in the community that you're kind of tapped into can, provide a meal or provide that help for sure. You had kind of brought up the subject that kind of leads us into our next topic, about people wanting to work in the climate, and what does working in this climate look like, and kind of what are the obligations as a business owner or an organizational leader or anyone really in leadership. What does that look like for defining that level of comfortability and protection for your staff? So kind of moving to the next topic is the COVID-19 plan of sorts for, Q4, fall and winter, kind of with the reality of COVID-19 resurgences happening as we move into the winter, amongst other seasonal viruses like the flu. I feel that historically we in kind of many industries haven't necessarily had structures in place to really support people through that kind of like sickness. And I guess kind of what I want to talk about next is just like, what steps are your business kind of currently taking to be conscious of this very, real reality for Q4? Marilee, if you want to start us off.
Yeah, so we're already committed to not opening up our spaces until either a vaccine is available, or there's like a real clear path to like a safe environment for our employees. And no matter, what our public and community want from us, our employees are the most important thing. And so until they feel safe enough to allow people back into our space, then that's like kind of the decision we go from there. In terms of kind of like how we're offering our menu, it's kind of like always been designed to have a takeaway model. And so we kind of, I think, I don't want to say it was easy for us, but it was manageable for us to kind of pivot in that direction in general. And when we do get to open up our space, we'll welcome everyone back with the proper, safety guidelines. But as of for right now, it's always our employees like first. And so we're, just as the planning going into it, we're kind of just taking it week by week, and then kind of having a light 3-month plan with, roll with the punches.
Yeah, to piggyback off of that, like exactly as she said, our employees are our biggest priority, and our pivot involves like doing takeout only. We have no plans to open our doors. When it becomes unbearably cold, I think what we might have to do is cover our store in plexiglass and make a walkthrough for people to get their drinks so that they're not cold outside, or especially if they're like moms or if they're people who just need to be warmer. We do want to make sure people can come inside with a very, very clear path of who to enter and exit. There's no dining in. Everything is takeout only. Last month we very ceremoniously took all of our mugs and all of our ceramics and just put them in the basement because we have no plans for dine-in, and we were like, we just need to stop pretending like things will get better soon. Our hope for the winter is that the cold causes a reduction of the spread and the harm of the virus, and we're hoping that come spring maybe things will look different, but whether they look different or not, we have no plans to open up. And a lot of the decisions we make are just collective decisions based on how we all feel about our personal safety.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely a very scary time to be working in any kind of public format, and I know many of us kind of experience that even in the day-to-day life of right now. Definitely, we're talking a lot about protecting our staff, and I think this is so great. And this kind of leads us into kind of a segue into our next topic, kind of regarding the larger discussion of kind of staff morale during the season, with everything changing, and business decisions and business leaders are having to do what they need to do to keep the business open, and oftentimes that sometimes presents a lot of opportunity for staff to not necessarily feel as welcomed as they need to in those kinds of situations. So, Kate, as an experienced manager, what are some areas you feel are often overlooked when considering like the morale of staff and teams?
I think the biggest thing with what a manager can do, or a managing owner, that reflects well, is to take responsibility. With your position, you have to assume a great responsibility. You also need to have a huge amount of compassion and empathy. I just think about like what people are experiencing right now. Your staff is scared. They're scared of getting sick. They may not have access to healthcare. They probably don't. They're working harder right now for less money. Take breaks, just making sure that your staff can take breaks as maybe more frequently than usual. It's tiring. It's tiring to speak all day louder because you're speaking through a mask. You're really having to enunciate. That's like, it's making you tired. It's drying your throat out. The mask is hurting the skin on your face. Like washing your hands all day is hurting your hands. So just as a manager or owner, like providing a safe space for breaks where people can maybe be alone and like take that off for a minute and safely. Also, like something, neutral lotion for people's faces, neutral lotion for their hands, like provide that stuff. Provide like consistent enforcement of rules for guests. A lot of times, like you might have, well, this is how my staff needs to behave, and this is the things that I expect my staff to do. But sometimes managers or owners aren't enforcing those same safety procedures for their guests, and they're allowing people to maybe push tables together that shouldn't, or to be using parts of the cafe without face coverings where they should be. So I just think, really clear rules for guests, kind, but it's for everyone's safety. So just being compassionate, supportive, and giving just a big window for your staff to feel cared for,
Definitely. Sonam, you've taken very stern steps to protect your staff, and kind of in the face of being very new business in this climate.
Yes.
What areas do you feel are kind of often overlooked when considering the morale of your staff and team?
Well, the first thing I wanted to say is that any workplaces like staff, they're not a monolith. Everybody is going to want something different. So again, to like echo what both of you have said, everybody has individual needs that need to be attended to. And being a person who runs any sort of organization, the strongest pillars to hold up Mina's World are the people who work there. I find it like peculiar sometimes that people have to focus on how morale can be created or synthesized and expressed to their staff, but I think it's one of the most important things, and that like workplace joy I understand that we are not a product of our labor, but at the same time, that workplace joy needs to be there. And coffee is so amazing for so many reasons. We know that at the core of any business endeavor, a strong, connected, loving team is the most valuable asset. And I feel like I have the most valuable asset in the world because my team is so wonderful, and we maintain that closeness and also just like keep everybody in check by regularly getting tested together. We have a store rule. We get tested every 18 to 23 days. We also like share our results or just state what they are in our group chat. At the sign of even a tickle in a throat, you are to take the day off. And there's no penalty for not showing up to work, especially if you're feeling sick in this time. It's hard with like the media and with the spread of a virus and just public fear to like be able to distinguish like what's a seasonal allergy and what's like a symptom of something really scary. And so we don't want our workers to like spend time trying to dissect the difference. We want them to rest. Their mental health is so important also. Feeling supported and held in your workplace is rare. And like part of why Kate and I made Mina's World is to try to have that structure because it's enjoyable to like have fun at work. And another way of boosting morale is staff dinners. We love to eat and laugh together.
Love that.
Yeah, it's like one of my favorite things. And I think just checking in a lot and just being like, how are you really? Like, are you good? You know, it's like the basic questions, just like putting the humanity back into like what is like a capitalist structure.
Definitely. No, that's really beautiful. I definitely resonate with that as kind of somebody who's had to step into some of the more like public facing roles kind of during a lot of the transitions. And it is very clear that like there is a palpable change in the way that people are having to navigate customers in this climate. And, you know, there's so many different ways that we care for customers. There's so many different ways that we can be cared for by customers. And at the end of the day, it's like we're serving them, but we also have to protect ourselves. And there's definitely so much room for supporting staff morale during this. And Marilee, as someone who has been on the ground kind of working with staff to get through this pandemic, what areas do you often feel are kind of overlooked when considering these things?
I think when everyone was just kind of going low stir crazy, I think it was really important to realize like how your actions affect your coworkers. So by like, you know, for me, I try to take every extra step, you know, doing hand sanitizing, wearing gloves all the time, you know, always keeping your mask on. And even though your comfort level maybe at a certain point, you know, your coworkers, you don't know if they have a grandpa they're taking care of, or if they're living with someone that has a super sensitive immune system. So it's like they shouldn't have to disclose those things to you. That you should just always take those precautions no matter what. And so that was really drilled down in our staff, that it's just like our principles of service applies to your coworkers as well. And then also I think something that's overlooked is having those meaningful connections with guests, even though they're wearing a mask and you're trying to limit those interactions. Like everyone's going through this crazy situation. So just kind of finding that meaningful connection in the shortest amount of time is a big challenge, but it's something that can, you know, brighten their day and then brighten your day. And it's like in moments like this, you kind of need that from like each other.
Definitely. Yeah, that's one of the largest probably portions I miss about kind of what was a more traditional style of service pre-pandemic, is those opportunities to really engage with customers in ways that, you know, we don't necessarily get to right now. You know, I've been at a cafe seeing many of our staff, you know, like pressed up against the window, just like waving at their favorite customer and their dog, and like those kind of really sweet interactions. That's like, you know, you don't get to see those in the same light in this current kind of climate of things. And I think we have such a very dynamic group, and that I believe all of us are very, you know, like heavy-hearted people when it comes to kind of caring about our staff, for sure. So I kind of love that we're ending on the topics of staff morale, because I think so many of us have so much to say about it. So in the face of the pandemic, many have struggled with mental health as it pertains to their personal lives, as it pertains to their work environments. It poses, you know, the big picture question of how do you reinforce mental health, wellness, and well-being as an owner and a person in leadership. Kate, what areas do you feel should be most focused on here? Like, what resources have you found to help you personally get through this pandemic?
Focus-wise, I think managing expectations, both what you expect from yourself right now, but also what you expect from others, is healthy. Be compassionate. That's that's just a big, that helps everything, right? Also,
Yeah.
like maintaining a balance between like overcommitting to stuff but also like dropping off the face of the earth. Like try to stay engaged right now, which can be hard. Like, once you like get home from work, you just want to like hide. But so
Yes.
just again, like finding that balance. Things that have helped me personally during this time, I think setting goals for myself has been really important. Like, losing my job was a pretty like big blow. And that like definitely like it's been a big journey of like how much of my own like self-worth that I had rolled up in that. So I think something that's helped me remember that like I don't suck is is like just
Definitely
setting
don't suck.
yeah. But making goals for myself, like completing projects, and then being able to like share resources with other people. Something else that has been really cool to see what people have come up with are like some of the coffee community activities that have been going around online. I've loved like the Barista League stuff, watching all that. I see Kendra in the chat box right now, speaking of Barista League, but also like getting my coffee people zine. The black and white birthday competition was really fun. I did that. We created a competition for Barista KC called Foam at Home, where you got like a little tube of instant coffee from Oddly Correct, and you got an individual like little lunchbox size Oatly, and you had to figure out how to make latte art with it and then post it. The Glitter Cat Digitician is starting up, having the coffee break group. So there's been like a lot of really cool resources just within coffee that have definitely helped me like put some clothes on, look at some people, talk to stuff. So yeah, I feel like we have, as a coffee people group, created a lot of resources. We're doing it right now. So
Right.
so yeah, those are all things that that I think have helped pass some of the pandemic time.
Totally.
Oh my gosh, all these comments. Thank you guys. This is great.
So sweet.
Bless.
Back off of that though, I think something that we did that like really made a big difference was just being closed one day a week for total sanitization, for a complete reset, and just so everybody knows that they have one free day off and then they can pick their other 2 days off. The other thing we've done is we've restructured our hours so shifts are shorter because of the immense emotional and physical energy that a lot of our baristas put into their jobs. They're amazing, they're talented, they're fast. We're slammed every single day despite what's going on. And so having 4.5 hour, 5 hour shifts, making sure that like we follow a model that we were really inspired by Oddly Correct, but just making sure that our baristas make $15 an hour at least, and making sure to dunk some 20s in the tip jar out of my wallet if I have to, like whatever it takes to make my people feel really held.
Definitely.
Yeah, we've also done the same thing where we limited the hours of our staff. Yeah, not for our benefit, but for their benefit. Making sure that there's not too many people in the space, like while they're working. Again, taking their breaks outside, and then we do for a lot of people that are worried, we require our staff to do a biweekly test, and we do like temp checks every day they come in on shift. And then similar to what you guys are doing at Mina's is if you think you're coughing or if you have a fever, you don't need to come in.
About coughing, don't.
Yeah. And then it was like well supported in terms of figuring out if you can use your sick time pay or anything to make sure that that's not removed from your compensation. And we did pay for our employees to get tested. So in any terms of financial struggles, we made sure that we were there to support our staff. And then it was also just, we started doing a lot of staff meals for our employees and just making sure that, hey, you need to take a break and eat. And then just getting really creative and having fun kind of with those staff meals, and then sharing what you made at home, because everyone's, cooking at home. So it was like trying to encourage each other, like, hey, what are you doing to, get past this time? And we still do it. There's a lot of activity. I remember one day it was just like an offload of, show me a really cute dog or your dog at home, like, playing with them. And so we just try to, encourage each other to share anything that's on your mind.
Sharing food is so powerful.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, this one other thing we do, which is
Oh no.
kind of like probably scary to our customers. Somebody screams. Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes. A little mix up. We're good.
But every hour, somebody on the floor just screams, "Water break," and everybody has to drop what they're doing and drink some damn water. Because
oh my gosh,
we're so perpetually dehydrated. But one of the most important things about immune system health is just like flushing everything out and having so much water. So we're like, drinking water is mandatory now. It's a rule. So.
I need somebody to hold me accountable in that same way. I just need like one of you guys to send me a text today and just be like, drink water. I think how we engage with one another as a community and staff has changed so much. And I know I've really benefited and really enjoyed a lot of like the coffee break groups and a lot of just the online meetings. And, there are so many resources that were shared that were people just trying to connect in really any capacity. And, whether that be like internally with your staff or those folks that are connected to the industry larger and having those opportunities still available. I mean, I know so many of us go to events, so many of us just are so used to seeing like those same people like every 3 to 6 months. And that's just something we aren't going to see for a little bit. But kind of, to support culture and morale in an environment where the team doesn't get together as often as they used to, what are some ideas that you have or kind of plan to implement to promote a healthy culture of togetherness without necessarily bringing the team physically together? Sonam?
Well, something that I like to do is, or have been really wanting to do, is to bring everybody flowers. We also, just like throughout the course of the pandemic, which when we closed on March 16th, we didn't open again until July 31st. But during that time, we did like drive-up meals for our staff and just for anybody who like signed up on Mina's World to like get these meals. Just checking in, being like, I miss you guys, what the heck? And also just like, when we are there, we have this thing in our store called the communication log. And it's basically just like our really boring chat log, but it also like updates our people on like what's up, what's new, what are we out of, what do we need to order, who or what, etc. And like just keeping these tiny little slices of normalcy around to make things feel a little more cohesive in the workplace is like so important. Also, we do a lot of deep breathing wherever we are. Yeah.
Love that. Marilee, what does that kind of look like for you?
So again, we have a fairly good amount of employees. So Slack is our biggest communication model, and something we did pre-COVID, but it's even more important now is this kind of idea of it's called like I see you. And it's just like recognizing your employees when they do something that's, not necessarily part of your daily duties, but it's just something that really made you, like as a person, feel good. And so if that was like, I see you, Josh, staying an extra 10 minutes to just like, wipe the counters or, something like that. And it's not meant to be like, oh, this person is a star. It's really just to highlight something that came personally, from that person, and exceeding that expectation, with each other is like really important. And even just saying like, hey, we had a really rough day, you guys, today, but we're getting busier and we're pulling together, and it's like each day gets better as we move forward. And so I think the affirmations is really important for us, since we can't really gather and do those group activities right now.
Totally. Kate?
Well, one thing that Barista Casey has going on right now is it's called the Barista Mercantile, and it's a little like pop-up it's semi-outdoors, so it's like very distanced. There's a coffee roaster, Marcel hosts us, and it's a place where like baristas can come, they can sell things, and keep that money for themselves to help support themselves. The things that we make and sell, that money goes to the micro grant fund that we're doing now. We closed the tip jar that I was talking about earlier, but now we do micro grants. But having people from the community come, because sometimes it's just like random, civilians like going by on the street and they see this little pop-up and they're like, what is this? Oh, this is coffee. And like, you get to kind of interact with people there, but also it's like, it's a stop for a lot of people who work in coffee in Kansas City. They'll pop by on a Saturday and grab a little cold brew. We give cold brew out for free. So like, even if you don't have money to spend, you can like come chat and hang out outside and drink some cold brew with us. But that's like something that has been a nice way to like stay connected with the community. And one thing I was thinking about this, since I don't have like a work that does things right now. Oddly Correct in Kansas City does, like, they close one day a month and have like, they pay their staff, they have a meeting, but mostly it's just like a regrouping day. And I think that's a really cool example. And the examples that Sonam and Marilyn gave too. But anyway, yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, there are just so many things to consider kind of moving forward when it comes to the pivoting that we're going to continue to do, our staff, their mental health, their safety. I'm going to take this time to kind of transition as we're kind of wrapping up our time together to Q&As. I'm going to scroll through some of these Q&As and we can start breaking them down a little bit, putting you all on the spot some more.
Cool.
There's a good amount of questions regarding testing in general. I think there's a very real reality with, when we require people to get tested and we encourage them to get tested, we also have to consider, the amount of time it takes for results to come back before they can come back to work, the accessibility of those tests, the cost of those tests. Maybe Sonam and Marilee all can speak to a little bit more kind of what your policies and kind of ideas are on the requirement and the assistance and maybe those financial things with testing.
Well, testing is free in Philadelphia. We offer rides to and from. We're all potted, which essentially means like we are all in the same kind of immediate group. And so we feel really comfortable like riding in a car together to go to the Sayre Health Clinic. Hi, Dr. Gupta, to get tested. We're all really, really stringent about it. But also it doesn't take much convincing. Like a lot of our staff just wants to do it. A lot of my community wants to do it. So it hasn't, first of all, it being free is really, really helpful. But let's say that it wasn't free. We would just have to pay for it because there's no need to ask somebody to be in your space without giving them the time and the compensation they need to be safely there. So it's without a question, if it did cost money, we would pay for it. I think that the health of your cafe is so contingent on the health of the people in there. And having personally been affected by COVID, there is nothing in this world that I won't do to make sure that the people that I'm around and love, are safe and protected from this terrible virus.
Totally.
Yeah. So, we do every possible protocol you could possibly do. The bi-weekly testing, which we pay for our employees to go get tested the time the whole process took. And then I'm happy to say that we've had 0 workplace transmissions. And if there was someone that tested positive, we immediately do the contact tracing if anyone they worked with was involved. And if it needed to be, then we would close one of the shops if we had to. We take it very seriously. And then if someone was around someone that tested positive, then we ask them to quarantine, and then get tested. And then of course, until they get like a negative response for 14 days, then, we wouldn't ask them to come back. So just like any signs that you are in that line of contact, we ask you to, quarantine and stay safe.
Totally. Yeah, I think that's great. It's definitely such a hard topic, but it often seems to have a very clear answer for a lot of people, for sure. We have a more kind of panel-wide discussion / question. Kind of when a lot of the pivoting was happening, did you guys have any places that you found resources with to kind of find those strategies for what pivoting looked like? So were there resources for like bringing in those protocols? Are there resources for like what's the best practice? Like where did you guys kind of pull a lot of that information in from? You can start with Marilee.
So I mostly do, food for Go Get 'em Tiger. And so for me, it was about what can we provide for our community that we know is going to be a struggle for them. So, again, that was like offering a whole realm of goods that we would have never offered before. It was always like intended in our, vision. And it was just like a speeding up of, okay, we're going to offer it now. And so, and then again, it was like day by day, like, all right, now we need to incorporate this into our model. And then we actually even asked our community, like, hey, what is it you need and how can we provide it for you? And then same thing with our employees. We slowly moved the distance of the customer interaction. We started putting in those stanchions of where you need to go. There was just like so much more direction that we expected of our guests. And again, the transparency of just what our guest needs and what our employees needs, and pivoting as quickly as we can to accommodate those.
Definitely.
For us, it was like COVID isn't just happening to our industry. It's not just happening to our store. It is like a nationwide crisis that needs to be addressed in so many ways. And, if a lot of the powers that be cannot address it, it is not like, as a community, our responsibility to come together and to create that infrastructure of support if we can't find it or access it. For us, pivoting looked like, we're going to sell all of the handmade goods that everybody in West Philly has, which is the town we're in, because that means that we can keep some sort of small ecosystem of an art economy going. So that looks like suddenly we're selling ceramic earrings and beautiful tinctures and candles, and we're selling mango chutney, and we're selling whole loaves of gluten-free bread, and we're finding a commissary space so that we can cook more and have things for people to eat. And that also looks like looking outward and being like, what do the people around me need? And when you're in a pandemic, which is a crazy sentence to say when you're in a pandemic, but when you're in a pandemic, any place that is somewhat of a food desert becomes even more blighted. And so our solution, or like our hope, was to create like a community fridge outside of our store and work with a lot of people, again, the help of our entire community, to fill it with like fresh, nutritious food that's like available for everyone, and just to like continue doing things that can like kind of help people all around, making new partnerships, staying very, very, very local, and being very conscious of what comes in and out of their store.
Totally. Okay.
Yeah, I honestly, like, a lot of what Sonam just said really resonates with me and some of the stuff that that I've been getting to work with, supporting people making things, because a lot of people have been able to do that or had time to do that, or just kept their mental health by doing that. So yeah, being able to like sell fresh bread at the Mercantile, because we have laid off baristas that are making bread, or prints, or candles are huge because everybody's at home. So they love getting candles. So that all that stuff's been really fun. And also totally agree with hyperlocal. Like, just this is the time to really, really lean on your community, because you're going to have each other's backs way before the powers that be have our backs, because they don't. So, yeah.
Definitely. So I guess kind of moving into our last question, and it's a question that I'm going to pose to you all, as if I haven't already posed so many questions to you. But kind of kind of looking at a panel, we have Sonam, who's newer to the coffee business and establishing the businesses. We have Marilee, who's working in a very established kind of structure, and then Kate, who's off doing all these other wild, non in the cafe type things. I think kind of respectively looking out into the industry, what are your advice for kind of those same people that are in your niche, those people who are wanting to start a coffee business or trying to keep their fresh business on their feet, or those established businesses, or those people who are in the industry struggling to find work, needing to find new avenues? Kate, start us off.
Oh, I was like, wow, I don't think I figured that out for myself yet, but I don't know. I think it's a really good time to self-reflect. Like I've kept myself really busy the last 20 years, which is how long I've been working in coffee, and just jumped into tons of stuff. So now is really the time to kind of like, hey, like how much of this is stuff that like I really care about, or why am I doing this thing? And so I don't know. Yeah, I guess advice-wise, I think just self-reflection and I don't know. I'm terrible at giving advice. Unless it's about like, yeah, if you need to know how to fix up your house or paint something, I got you. Where to camp.
Right. I feel like there's a lot of very humbling reality in the fact that we don't know, maybe we don't know, and maybe we can't know right now. And I think I definitely resonate about a lot of that self-reflection and just kind of identifying like, what's the new normal? What wasn't I getting? What do I need to find? Like that's a very real thing.
Yeah. Be open, be humble.
Right. Sonam?
My advice to anybody who is in my position and attempting to enter any field that's dominated by white men is don't ask for permission. Do what you need to do. And my second piece of advice is simply like, don't go by traditional models. I think that something that I thought was impossible was being able to pay your staff after being open for 16 days. Something that I thought was impossible was having a really successful business during a pandemic. But the reasons why these things are happening is because there's no box. Don't let yourself ask for permission or look to others for what to do. Intuitively, you're going to know what is right for you and for the people you want to surround yourself with. And you literally can do anything you tell yourself you can do. I could like speak on this topic for hours because there's so many things I want to say to like other queer brown people like me when it comes to like working in commerce and being in a westernized society. Like truly you can do it if you want to do it, and anybody who tells you can't, they're afraid of their power.
Put it on a shirt. I'll buy it.
Yeah.
Marilee?
Pretty much, drinking coffee is, it's a ritual. And like even our title, Go Get 'em Tiger, we named our company that because, you start with us with your day and we want you to, go kill it and do what's, have a great day. And so when you're like opening up a new place, you just have to remember that you went into coffee because you wanted to share, something with your community and you wanted to be part of their day, part of their ritual. You want to bring people together to, have a conversation and show people that, like coffee is super enjoyable, like when you really like get to understand it. And so I think when you just remember that, it's about your community, and it's about supporting your staff, I think you'll be successful because you'll make those decisions in the best interest for those two things.
Right on.
Love it. So great. Well, I am so thankful and honored to have had this time with each of you. You are each so valuable and have really put in the work to support your staff, change your communities, and continue pushing the industry forward. So for you all, a virtual round of applause. We can clap. That's a thing, right? We can clap. We can do something like that. For those attending, if you haven't already and are able to, consider donating to GoFundMe, an organization making strides and directly impacting the well-being of our baristas and coffee professionals. If you want the opportunity to tune in for a more intimate discussion and Q&A with myself, our panelists, and some of the other voices behind Bloom, we have those coffee break things happening next week. You can find the links for those on the Bloom website. All that's there. I will definitely not be wearing fabulous earrings, but I will be there. And it'll be wonderful. We'll all talk, and it'll be so great.
I look
It'll be
forward to
because I
your
just woke up.
earrings. I need them.
And if you're hanging around for the other panels, Coffee Break Group is going to be hosting a virtual happy hour after this. So after the conclusion of our final panel, that will be that. So for all of our attendees, thank you for attending. We're going to go ahead and take a little 10-minute break. And when we come back, we'll get on to hearing the very powerful voices from our Living Wage panel.
Thank you so much.
Cool.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you. Stop.